Players War to the Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and LeBron James, speaking at the ESPYs. There have been more passive-aggressive ways, but unfortunately what happens, and much like what I believe will happen to what the Saints did with the act of solidarity, a lot of times that falls on deaf ears, or it's an awe moment, and then what happens after the awe moment. And that's the problem that I'm having with it. Everybody thought it was all, what a great, it was all shucksy, oh, shucks. What a great thing for Chris Paul and the guys to do, for them to come out at the ESPYs and speak on these things. And it was great for all of 3 minutes, and then a commercial came on, and you forgot all about what Chris Paul and everybody just did. Same. It's a great moment. It's a great photo op. Yeah, let's take this picture, let's put it up on the wall, and let's just enjoy it for what it is. Then what happens? We take it down, and you never think about it again. It goes in the garage, it goes in the attic, and you don't see it for 20 years. That I don't necessarily want to say that I don't support what Kaepernick did, because I understand why he did it. And I understand that some people it's going to ruffle some feathers. But in order to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs. And sometimes you can't sit down and openly speak to a person calm, cool, collected. Sometimes you got to get right up in their face and yell at them and tell them why you're angry. And I think in this situation, it may be warranted. Sometimes I understand, again, the message is going to get lost by some. But I feel like you weren't going to reach them anyway, because their minds were made up. And hopefully you can change their mind over time, but their minds are made up. But nobody cared about the national anthem or the social injustices until Kaepernick basically, in their minds, disrespected something so true to them. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I can, I'm able to sit down and listen to both sides. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know Kyle wanted to come in and give some. Kyle's a wise man, so he might be able to bridge us, because we're not disagreeing with each other. We're having that difficulty that our generation and our cultures have had for a long time, and finding a message that we can both share that works for both of us is difficult. Maybe Kyle can shed some light.
Hey guys. Hey Brian, how you doing?
Doing well, my brother. How are you?
Good. Hey Rev. Guys, I don't know about shedding any light, but I think if we look back from the Civil Rights Act back in 1964, we're talking about 52 years later, we're still having this discussion about discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, whatever. We still are having this discussion, but also we are still having a discussion about equality, fairness, and justice. I really believe the struggle for justice and peace in not just America, but in this world will always continue, where there's sin that continues to abound as well, right? But on a generic level, we have to be able to understand what Colin Kaepernick did was groundbreaking, and he's a pioneer for this generation, not for someone who's fought through civil rights or been through civil rights up until this time. But, the old people would say and argue that a lot of people, especially young guys in this particular generation, haven't been as vocal as they need to be when it came to civil rights. Now, you have a guy like Michael Jordan, who most of his career, most of his life has been very silent on civil rights and on the race issue. Now he's come out and he has been a proponent of trying to continue the dialogue and trying to find some way to have the communities in North Carolina to heal, so to speak. And I think that's what we should focus on. Colin Kaepernick was not, I really have to look at the intent of a person's heart when they're doing whatever act it is. Okay. So I did not sense any malice in his heart against the symbolism of who and what the United States of America is. Right. And I think a lot of people took it so negatively at first because the national anthem is supposed to be this call for freedom for the people in America. But how can it be the call for freedom in America when there are so many people who are disenfranchised, so many people who have been in oppressive situations and not been able to give their all to this America and stand up for this America that does not stand up for them? And that's what he was done. And I think he has really helped to be able to push this dialogue forward. And it doesn't mean that this is the end, and it should not be the end. And I hope a lot of people will be able to listen. And, you know, if we can be in the Superdome and cheering for our favorite team in the black and gold together as black, white, red, and brown, why can't we come together and love one another the same way? You know, we can love that team on the field, but why can't we love one another in the stands? Does it only have to be for 3.5 hours, or can it be for 30, 40, 300 years? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't have to stop there. And I think if we continue this type of dialogue, and I love what Bryan and what you have said, Rev, and I've had these dialogues with the professor for many a year. He and I have talked about these things. I really believe that we need to continue to promote and champion the call for justice and peace in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in the United States, in this world.
Yeah. Well, man, and I'll say this, and I don't say this in a disrespectful way to either side that I'm going to speak on. I think a couple things need to happen. One, more of POC, people of color, they're white allies. Most people will consider me a white ally. More of us need to stand up and speak out and not just meet at the rallies and stand in circles around the blacks, Hispanics, everybody, people of color who are protesting to defend them. There needs to be more that actually stand out and do something. And like I said, not toot my own horn, but trying to do what I'm trying to do. Use the platform you've been given. We could have been talking about the San Diego Chargers game for the past 30 minutes. Instead, I believe God has given me this opportunity, because Kyle can tell you, he runs St. News. I mean, Who Dat Confessional has been getting listened to a couple hundred times a week. And to me, that's all God. That's all to His glory, because He knows that this message needs to get out. It's being downloaded. It's going out. So more white people need to stand up. And second, and I say this in a way that, because I'm saying this out of personal experience, more of my black brothers and sisters, please be more patient with those of us on the other side who not only are trying to support you, but we're also trying to learn and cope from things that have been ingrained in us for generations, to see the steps that we've taken that are wrong, that need to be fixed, to bring up people of color to the justice level that they need to be at. Because I fully believe that white man, white woman will never reach that 100% potential level that they need to be at until the black brother and black sister and the Mexican brother and Mexican sister and the Asian brother and Asian sister are at the same level. So, if you were to put it in a numbers base, let's say white America is living at 90% of its potential and is being held back because it's holding other people back. But when we finally come together and are all moving as one, that's when this nation, the church, will finally have the breakthrough and that revival that everybody's been looking for. It won't matter if Hillary's president or Trump is president. Candidates won't matter. Politics won't matter. The unity will actually be a real, legitimate thing that you can actually see, not just something that we talk about, not just something that we preach about, not just something that we do photo ops in solidarity, and I say that because I feel like I need to stress it, because I have friends in different movements and I can see why, that are out of patience, that not only are they going through it, but their father had to go through it, and their mother and their grandparents had to go through it, and their parents had to go through it. So I can understand why the patient level is low, but don't let that become a point where you're not willing to reach out and work with someone else. And I don't know why I got on this point. I just felt like I needed to say that. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit, but I really do, because so many people that I've tried to reach out to And I know their heart's in the exact same place I am. And I'm not degrading them. I'm not mad at them. I understand that they're hurting. Haven't reached back to me or don't want to work with people from, the white allies or just white culture in general because they've been hurt from it. If you're out there and you're listening, no matter when it is, don't let your heart become hardened, because it can't be about black empowerment by white disempowerment. The goal is to not, get revenge and put whites into slavery. And I'm not trying to say that in a way that makes it sound like I want to keep blacks oppressed. Promise you that is not my heart. I just want you to see it from the standpoint that it's not until me, you, us, all of us work together that we can finally get rid of this system that's been placed to not just oppress you, but how many white people is it blinding right now? How many white people is it affecting? A lot of people don't seem to understand that poor white America is in the same boat that poor black America is in. They've just been blinded and taught that they now have, the ability to do whatever they want through hard work, not realizing they've been enslaved by the exact same mind system that was put on black culture generations ago. And I know that's getting into a way deeper conversation that we'll have to get to later. But they don't see it. They think that they're all hunky-dory and that they elect this leader that they're going to be spoken for. But in reality, that's just a false pariah that's been placed in their mind to make them feel comfortable. It's the same thing that's been given to black church by, and this is not me trying to get political or support certain candidates, but it's the same thing that the Democratic Party has been doing to black culture for how many years now? Trying to say, we'll protect you, we'll stand up for your rights, we'll do this, that, and the other. But yet, as Kyle said, 50 years later, we're still here where we are, and all we have is a piece of paper that says you have that right, but in reality, are you still there, or have you reached that point? No, you haven't.
Well, Deuce, can I just interject right here, man? Look, I'll be 50 years old in December, and my family taught me a lot about the civil rights movement, but they also taught me a lot about segregation. One thing that we need to do is kind of understand that the evils of the past are going to always linger if people continue to worship those evils.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you can worship those evils by being angry at those evils. You can make those evils your king, and you decide to be able to behave badly because of that. Or you could worship those evils and think of those evils as, oh, that was the good old days, and wish those good old days would come back. The problem is, when are we going to peel back those layers and try to understand you don't have to wrap yourself in those evils, in that pain, in that anger, in that hurt to protect yourself any longer. And I think a lot of us do not want to be transparent in our feelings and showing our feelings because, well, that's my white, you're white, and you're black, you're Anglo, you're this, you're Caucasian. You can say whatever you want to say. You can call me a Negro or Negra or whatever it is, that some people still speak in those terms behind the scenes or with their family members or friends, right? So, you look at yourself, you look at Brian, you look at the professor, you look at Coach Rick Gailey. He's elder, but he has a different philosophy than I would on some subjects because he has a little bit more wisdom, but he understands the dynamics more. And he's been around young people who are black, young men. He has helped raise young men who are in impoverished situations to be able to realize their potentials and to be able to do positive things. And you look at someone like the professor who's 50 years old, but he's mentored a lot of young men in his day to be able to help them to realize their potential as well. But you got two guys, one black, one white, but they come together if they choose to have a dialogue and be able to reason things out together.